Oh yeah, and welcome to episode 1 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Woody V, and I'm in the house, and I got my homeboy Robbie Clayton with me. Robbie, how you doing? Ready to chop it up, bro?
Yo, guys, how you all going? Really pleased to be here. It's definitely something we've talked about for a while there, Woody. So yeah, let's get it on.
Yeah, man, got my single malt ready to chop it up with you, man. Look, I mean, we'll tell you a little bit more about the podcast in a second, but just to let you know where you can tune into us. If you want to watch the video, you can jump onto YouTube and find Throwback Hoops, our channel, and watch the video feed there. But if you want to listen to the podcast on your way to work or while you're working out or just at home, you know, all the podcast channels worldwide, wherever you subscribe, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher or you know, Spotify, doesn't really matter. You'll be able to get the podcast there. So yeah, Robbie, you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, name's Rob Clayton. Probably like most people that would be listening or watching this, I'm a lifelong basketball fan. Growing up in Perth, I started sort of following the NBL in probably the sort of early to mid 80s. So certainly been around the game for a while now. I've lived in Perth for pretty much all my adult life, but I've still continued to be a huge Perth Wildcats fan. And look, obviously a huge NBA fan as well. I started supporting the Atlanta Hawks in the mid 80s. Thanks to a certain French-born player that they had at the time. And yeah, continue to be a fan right through, as you are too, right, Woods?
Yeah, definitely, man. You know, that's kind of what brought us together, and we'll touch on that a bit later. I mean, podcasting, sports media, that's in your genes, man. It's in your blood, right? I mean, tell the audience a little bit about your connection to that world, right?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, my brother Matt Clayton's been a journalist for many years now. He's got quite a successful Formula One podcast going at the moment called In the Fast Lane. So they do 2 podcasts a week. So it's a bit of a free plug for you there, Matt. But yeah, it is in the blood. Sports has always sort of been a big sort of part of our family. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great. And for myself personally, you know, coming to this country in 1990, living in Beecroft, probably being the only Indian kid in the whole of the school at the time, it was difficult for me to find friends and whatnot. You know, acclimatizing to a new country and a new environment wasn't always easy. But my dad used to go to America, come back and bring back basketball cards, and that got me interested in the game, and that's where I found my love for, you know, Dominique Wilkins, Kevin Willis, all those guys, the Atlanta Hawks as well, and the Sydney Kings. And it allowed me to build friendships and sort of fit in a little bit better. So I owe a lot to the game. I'm Indian, so cricket came from my mom's side and basketball from my dad's side. I previously hosted a podcast called The Cricket Googly about 8 years back. So this is my second time doing this, but to be able to give back to the game of basketball that's given me so much is a big part of why I'm doing this. And Robbie, you touched on it earlier. You know, we both came together because we were Hawks fans, you know, and fans of the NBL. Do you want to speak a little bit about our introduction and how that came about and when that was?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's quite a funny introduction. We had a mutual friend, still one of my best friends to the day, by the name of Pinky. Shout out to Pinky if you're listening. So he basically would come home. He worked with Woody at the time, and he'd sort of come over to my place, and he's like, "There's seriously the same person that I work with that likes everything the same as you, except he's brown." So he's basically like a brown version of you. And we thought that was a bit funny. And yeah, eventually we sort of we caught up one day, and Pinky was like, "Woody, here's Rob. Rob, here's Woody." We pretty much talked our ears off the whole night. And yeah, I think we're coming up to about sort of 20 years worth of friendship now. And yeah, the bond's just getting stronger. So definitely a shout out to Pinky for hooking us up all those years ago. And yeah, finding someone that pretty much has all the same things in common as me.
Yeah, thanks, Pinky. Really appreciate it. Yeah, about 20 years now, man. And over that 20 years, your family and myself have a tradition that we've kept up for all this time, right? I mean, I did go and live in London for a few years where we weren't able to do it, but why don't you tell the audience a bit about that tradition and how we've kept it up over time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been that family tradition with us that we go to every Kings and Wildcats game. Obviously, we both live in Sydney, so the Wildcats come here twice a year, and we've gone and seen both of those games for at least the last 15, 16, 17 years together. So yeah, my mum and dad have come to each game. My daughter comes with us now. yeah, we just go and sort of have a great time, don't we? You'll be in your Kings gear, I'll be in my Wildcats gear. Look, obviously we know Wildcats have won most of those games, but yeah, it's been fun, right?
Yeah, I'm always drowning my sorrows with the beer over there because my team never wins, man. So it's always good, and your family's become like my family over the years. So it's a tradition we'll keep up, and hopefully, with everyone getting vaccinated and COVID coming to an end, we'll be able to get out to Kudos Bank.
How good will that first game back be? It'll be
definitely,
I can't
man.
wait for it. Yeah,
I hear you, bro. I hear you. So I guess let's just get into what the podcast is going to be about and what we wanted to do, right? I mean, we really want to showcase the NBL and talk about the game in Australia as a whole. Not just the NBL, though. We want to focus a little bit on Australians in the NBA and how they're performing. And then we'll have our Hawks talk for sure. Because that's something we really want to bring to the audience here and speak about our fandom for the Atlanta Hawks and how they're doing. So we'll have a segment every week where we cover what's going on in Hawks land, and then we'll touch on some NBA topics, right, Robbie?
Absolutely, yeah. No, sort of anytime there's anything that sort of comes up, we'll try and sort of keep a bit of a mix and try and keep it fresh and sort of not so vanilla and everything, I guess. But yeah, absolutely, it'll be a good mix of NBL and NBA.
And the name Throwback Hoops, right? I just want to tell the audience a little bit about why we decided that should be the name of our show. Me and Robbie, we're nearly 40 now. We're a throwback to the current fans of basketball. We watched the game in an age when the game was played in the half court. You'd have big mans dominating the game, and we're a throwback to the new fan. We're an old school fans of the game of basketball, and we have probably the best throwback collection in this country. I mean, between the two of us, we have nearly 1,000 throwback jerseys. Robbie, is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're liking that Ricky Grace up there. That's got to be 30 years old, that jersey up there, right there. Yeah, absolutely. If you combine our two jersey collections, it's pretty extreme. But we'll definitely be showcasing some of those on each episode.
Yeah, and that's going to be what we're going to do at the start of every episode, showcase a specific jersey and talk a little bit about the player behind that jersey. In fact, why don't we just start that right now, Robbie? Do you want to stand up?
Sure. Okay, so obviously you can see the retro Ricky Grace up there. And look, I'll just show you the one I'm wearing now. Yeah, so I decided to, I guess, honor Ricky for the first podcast. He's definitely my favorite ever Wildcat, with apologies to Eric Watterson. But yeah, I mean, what a great player and great career Ricky Grace had, and it was almost ironic that towards the end of his career he had a short stint with the Atlanta Hawks, which was amazing, and then he also became an Australian boomer. So yeah, and he obviously, he's still sort of involved in the game. I think he's working with the Indigenous community over in Perth. But yeah, what an absolute legend of the game. Certainly. I mean, look, Andrew Gaze is probably the best NBL player I've seen, but, Ricky Grace is certainly in that conversation in my mind. And what about yourself there, Woods? What are you rocking today?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So, as you can see...
Jay Chill.
I got the retro Josh Childress jersey. And, Josh Childress is... one of my favorite Kings of all time. He was also an Atlanta Hawk. A big part of us choosing these jerseys is we wanted to get a player that's played for our favorite NBA team and our NBL team. So we thought it'd be fitting to go with Ricky Grace and Josh Childress today. But Josh Childress is a throwback as well. He's a player who didn't think that staying in the NBA his whole career would be the be all end all. He's highly educated. He went to Stanford University, and then he broke the mold, man. He went to Olympiacos, I think it was, in 2008, and it was one of the biggest European contracts in history. And he wanted to learn about the world, educate himself and broaden his horizons. It wasn't all about the NBA for him, and he was a pioneer in sort of starting that trend where people felt they could go overseas and earn a living playing basketball, as well as discovering a bit about the world. And he's given so much back to the basketball community. He's a part owner of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, and he's a huge ambassador for Australian basketball. So he was
a big signing for the NBL, wasn't he? When the Kings got him that time, it really sort of got a lot of attention there. So yeah,
I still remember where it was, man. I was on the bus and I got a text from you like, "Can you believe it? Childress is coming to Sydney." And I was just, no way, because back then, you didn't really have many NBA guys, coming through the system. Nowadays, you got a lot of NBA fringe guys and ex-NBA players coming. And he was able to bring your boy Al Harrington over and things like that. So what he did for this league and putting it on the map, it cannot be understated, right?
Exactly. No, definitely not.
All right. So, I mean, it's only fitting today that we, kick it off doing a couple of team previews with the Perth Wildcats and the Sydney Kings to start off with. Rob, I will actually just throw over to you.
Sounds good, mate. So, yeah, look, we're going to obviously sort of kick off the NBL previews, starting with the Wildcats. I wish I could say it was the championship-winning Wildcats, but obviously they had a year off last year of winning it. It's probably pretty honest to say it hasn't been the most amazing off-season for the Wildcats so far. Woods, I'm sure you'd agree, mate. I think we keep hearing about all these big signings for other teams and a lot of movement. The Wildcats roster at the moment is still... I guess it's still a little bit of a work in progress. There's still 2 positions available there, including an import spot. And obviously with the injury to Todd Blanchfield last week and his subsequent knee surgery there's probably another position they need to fill there. So, look, I'm going to put the trust and faith in the Wildcats. They've been an amazing organisation over the years. So who am I to sort of doubt their off-season signings and everything? I think the core of their team is still quite good. And look, obviously, anytime you've got Bryce Cotton on a team, that's obviously a great thing to have. I guess probably the concerns I've got with the roster at the moment is certainly the big man position. If you look at that depth chart there, there's one centre on the roster at the moment in Majok. Majok's last NBL game played was Game 3 of the 2020 NBL Finals in March 2020. So he hasn't played a competitive game in about a year and a half. So, look, it's probably thought that the Wildcats will lock up that third import position for a big, but we'll obviously see whether this Blanchfield injury sort of makes any changes there. Look, getting Vic Law is huge. We all saw how good he was last year for the Bullets. He had a very good summer league for the Lakers. So I think he'll slot in really well and sort of, he'll join that culture of the Wildcats and sort of fit in well there. Obviously, we've got the new coach as well in Scott. Don't call him ScoMo Morrison. So he comes with a pretty good pedigree. And look, obviously, it's going to be a big change not having Gleeson there. So it is a bit of a new era for the Wildcats. Maybe some of the refs that come to Perth might enjoy reffing the Wildcats a little bit more without Trevor there. But, look, in terms of some new players, they did sort of sign a couple of good sort of young players in Jack Purchase and Kyle Zunic. So, look, both actually are sons of guns. They both had dads that played in the NBL in the 80s. Zoran Zunic, of course, played with the Supersonics in the sort of early to mid-80s. And obviously, Nigel Purchase, Jack's dad, was an important member of those sort of 1990s Melbourne Tigers teams. So, look, I'm hearing some good things about Zunic. He's a 4-year senior at Winthrop University in America. Took his team to the NCAA last year, which is a big thing for a small school like them. So, look, although he's a development player, along with Cory Sherbal, I think both of those guys will contribute this year.
Hey, Robbie, you want to actually take the listeners who can't see this in front of them through the depth chart and what it kind of looks like on opening night.
Yeah, of course. So, as I said, there are sort of still 2 roster spots available at the moment. But if you look at sort of the guards there, we'd run with sort of the 2 point guards with Mitch Norton and Kevin White. We saw obviously Kevin White had a great season last year and re-signed. The shooting guards, we've got Bryce Cotton and Kyle Zunic. I was going to do a little bit of a spiel, to be honest, about Bryce Cotton and this whole naturalization thing, but honestly, until it happens, I'm just not going to sort of put any more faith in it. It seems like it's just going on a long time now. I know there was a big step with him getting a visa last year, which he got. I think it's like some sort of talent visa there, but still no updates on the naturalization. So we'll give you an update when we've got some there. So look, the guards are pretty strong, I believe. Obviously Norton, White, and Cotton, are returning from last year. In terms of sort of the swingmen and small forward, I mean, the big one there is Luke Travis. Obviously, this is his first full year on the roster with, not being a DP player. We've also got Cory Sherbal, who I mentioned earlier, and Todd Blanchfield. The latest on Blanchfield is looking like a 4-month knee injury, which could sort of have him out until maybe early to mid-January next year. So that is a huge loss for Perth with how, Toddy played so great last year for them.
He did, yeah.
And look, I guess in terms of sort of the other sort of big guys, I mentioned Majok is the only centre on the roster. The other sort of bigger sort of guys there, we've got, obviously Vic Law, who I discussed earlier. We've got Jesse Wagstaff returning for another year. And then we've got Jack Purchase. So, so I think there's still definitely a little bit of work. I think we do seem like we're a little bit behind some of the other teams at the moment, but as I said, I'll keep the faith there. We've still got an import spot open, and we've still got another spot open as well.
Man, I'm telling you, bro, you guys are not making the playoffs this year. You got no chance. I think you're probably 8th or 9th, something like that, right? Yeah.
Look, this is probably the first year I might agree with that, Woods, but I should also let the listeners know you've probably said that same comment to me for the last 10 years. And in those last 10 years, if I remember rightly, I think we might have made the playoffs every year and maybe won 6 championships or so. So, we'll see how we go with that. But, look, I think the odds are sort of getting a little bit longer for them making it based on this offseason.
Since 1987, Doug, since 1987. So it's been
a crazy stat.
It's been a while, man. Right?
I mean, we're talking sort of world sport there in World Sports League. This streak of the Wildcats making the playoffs it's unbelievable, really. So I hope it continues.
Yeah. Hey, man, I was listening to the Brad and Bodie podcast the other day, and Cal Bruton was on there, and he was talking about that 87 season, and when that run started. So in preparation for this recording, it was kind of fitting that I listened to that. So, this is the year it's going to end, though, man. I'm telling you. So what about that center position? I mean, I'm really concerned there.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
it's a worry, isn't it? I mean, there was talk that they were looking, at Matt Hodgson in the off-season. He's obviously since decided he's going to Europe. So he would have been a great get for the Wildcats. They've had some pretty good sort of Aussie centres over the last few years. So he would have been good. But, we've got to kind of move on now. I think it's probably going to be an import. I think they're probably going to be waiting to see how these NBA training camp rosters go, look at some of these last cuts and potentially sort of get a name player there.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Woods, I'm probably not exactly sure what they're going to do with Toddy at this stage. I mean, they're talking a 4-month injury. There is talk that the season, as we know, could be pushed back until December. So we'll see how we go. Then if it is December, Toddy might only miss a month there and we can probably sort of cover him there. But look, if it does start as expected or if the injury doesn't go as we thought, that could be a big sort of hole for them.
Yeah, and with Travis, man, I mean, let's talk about him a little bit. He's really been upset that he was not listed on the top 100 players or prospects for the draft next year. And he feels that he should be a first-round draft pick. And he's got a point to prove after that list came out from ESPN. And he's going to have that opportunity to put up big numbers, especially early on with Toddy B out of the lineup, right?
Exactly. I mean, look, Luke's shifted to the number 23 jersey this year, so I thought that was a pretty good sign. Some of the guys that have worn that recently, Casey Prather and Tariko White. If we're going way back when, we had some Anthony Stewart in that number 2. So I think that's he's going to have a great year. Obviously he's going to be starting this year. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. And look, I think the best thing probably about Travers as well is he can legit play 3 positions. You can put him out there at 1, 2, or 3. And he'll excel in all of those positions. So really looking forward to see how he goes this year.
Yeah, and I mean, what about that center position? Any candidates there? What about Plum Dog Millionaire? Any chance he can come back and do a job?
Yeah, there has been some talk about Plumlee, hasn't there? I mean, I think a lot of this, I know he did really enjoy his sort of time last time. I'm not sure what his current playing status is, but look, if we could get him, I'd be happy with that. I think an import trio of Bryce Cotton, Vic Law, and Plumlee would be great. So obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on him. I think we'll probably know more in these next couple of weeks after these NBA training camps sort of, start to make their first sort of roster cuts anyway.
And Jesse Wagstaff, this is probably going to be his last run around, would you say?
You'd think so. Look, I was pleased that he came back for one more. Look, obviously it was a pretty tough season for Jesse last year. I know there was a lot of focus on that missed layup and a few other things. But look, I still think he can contribute to the team. He could potentially play some small ball 5 if needed as well and try and stretch the D out a bit. And I think he's just a great player just to have around as well. So, look, I'm glad he's back for another year. He's certainly the veteran on the team, absolutely.
He's not going to be sending a Christmas card to my main man, Jay Chill, is he?
No, I don't think those two will be doing that.
Good. And just why don't we just touch on Scott Morrison? He comes with a high pedigree. Tell us a little bit about him and what he's going to bring to this lineup. And he's got his Mike Kelly by his side as well, which is going to be good, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. So look, he comes with a great pedigree there. He's sort of been coaching in sort of the G League, and he's had some good sort of experience there. So look, I think it's great that we are getting some of these fringe sort of NBA head coach type people that are coming out here, and we've seen it a little bit the last few years. So look, I think it will be a big shift from Gleeson. Gleeson was a little bit of an old school coach. From what I sort of hear about Scott Morrison, he's probably going to be a little bit more of a players coach. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him to kind of come in and put his stamp on what is a little bit of a new team this year, and try and sort of keep the playoff streak going, right?
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen, man. Kind of like your fantasy streak, it's probably going to come to an end, and both the Wildcats and Robbie Clayton's team in NBL fantasy ain't going to make the playoffs this year. That's my pick. The double's going to happen. So,
well, we'll see. Mate. It hasn't happened before.
Who's the reigning champion in our fantasy league, man?
Well, I had to let you get that one,
So, okay, while we're on the topic of that, before we move on to the Sydney Kings, I want to get your fantasy, stud and your sleeper. I mean, who's the guy who's a banker that you got to put in your NBL fantasy team? And who's the guy who could be a sleeper this year?
I mean, I guess probably the two studs. You could look at either Vic Law or Bryce there. Vic Law was a beast in fantasy last year, but look, I'd probably still say Bryce. Just what he puts up every game. He shoots pretty good percentages. He's a very efficient player. So, yeah, I mean, if you have him and captain him on sort of those games where Wildcats are playing 2 games, you'll go pretty well with that. So that's certainly who I'd say were the stud. Look, in terms of a sleeper, look, I probably would say that, Luke Travis is probably not a sleeper now. I guess we're probably expecting big things from him. So, look, maybe I could say my man Cory Sherbal there. DP player. He was on the roster last year. I thought he showed a lot of promise last year, and he was sort of playing, behind a few guys like Steindl there. So I think he will get a few more opportunities. So, look, I think with opportunities, he could definitely deliver. So, yeah, I'll say Cory Sherbal for my sleeper.
And early on, he'll get opportunity to play, and you'll get him at a basement price, right?
That's right. He'll be cheap as chips. Yeah.
Also got to give a shout out to the Basketball Blokes who do their podcast on NBL Fantasy. I'm a big fan. I love what you're doing. And we'll be tuning in this year as well, Robbie and myself. So
absolutely can't wait. Yeah. And so what about you, Woods? You want to sort of give us what this offseason and the depth chart and everything for the Kings is looking like?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the thing about a successful NBL side is that they keep a nucleus of players together for multiple seasons on end. We just saw that Perth Wildcats team, and you got guys like Mitch Norton, Jesse Wagstaff, Bryce Cotton, at least 3 or 4 guys that'll come back year on. Majuk's been part of that system for a while, and that's what leads to success in the NBL. And the knock on the Kings is they keep sort of bringing in new players every year. So I mean, it's nice to have a few guys coming back this year. So we got Xavier Cooks coming back, Jarrell Martin, Jordan Hunter, Sean Bruce, Angus Glover, Tommy V, who had a great season, and Jalen Galloway, the DP. So it's nice to have some guys coming back and actually having an import to come back for a second year.
That's a nice looking roster on paper there, Woods. I've got to say, mate, that's got a real good mix of Aussie talent and good imports there. So yeah, definitely. And I mean, like as you said, having that nice mix there and guys who've got talent and can contribute right away is going to be a big plus for us. And a guy like DJ Vasilovic, who had a great season last year, he's going to be injured at the beginning of the season, and we decided to lean on you guys a little bit and get Wani Swakala Bullock to come over and as an injury replacement, who never really got that opportunity under Gleeson. So hopefully he can make a name for himself in Sydney. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can offer. The depth chart as it looks, you got Jalen Adams at point guard, you got RJ Hunter at shooting guard, Xavier Cooks in the 3 spot, Jarrell Martin at the 4, and Jordan Hunter, who's so improved in what he's been doing on the floor at the center position. So that team looks great off the bat. And I think for a guy like Chase Buford, he wanted to bring in a point guard who he's familiar with, and Chase Buford, had great pedigree, son of R.C. Buford from the Spurs. The NBA and basketball's in his blood. And he felt that, look, I want a point guard who can run the offense to my liking. And the fact that him and Jalen Adams have that background from their time in the G League at the Wisconsin Herd, that really,
lends to the fact that straight off the bat, he's got a trusted lieutenant who's going to be able to run that offense right off the bat. And a guy like RJ Hunter, half a decade ago, he was drafted by the Boston Celtics, and he's been a bit of a journeyman, gone all over the world and made a name for himself as a bit of a gun for hire. And he can make that 3-point shot, and he's a lights out shooter, and that's kind of what we need in this offense. So having him there.
Hey, Woody, one thing from this roster, mate. One thing that does stand out a little bit to me, there's not a lot of veterans on the team this year, is there, compared to what they've had in the last few seasons?
No, you're right, and having guys like Brad Newley and in the locker room,
Even
really
Kicks as well.
Kicker who just retired, man. Just it kind of like helps the young guys come along a little bit. But I think Sean Bruce is going to have to step into that role a little bit, right? He's a veteran now. He's been around for a while. He's our longest tenured player, if you can believe it, Robbie. So I think a guy like Sean Bruce needs to sort of step into that role of the veteran that can bring the young guys along. I just want to also talk a little bit. I got a really close friend. We've been friends for nearly 30 years. His name is Mahesh. He's from Oz Hoopers TV, and I've been speaking to him quite a lot. And he played professionally in the Indian League, and then after he finished his professional basketball career, he moved into coaching. Shout out to you, Mahesh. And then during those travails when he was coaching, he developed a relationship with Biwali Bayless, who's our backup point guard. And those occasional training sessions became into a regular occurrence until the point where Mahesh became Biwali's official trainer and has worked with him for the last 3 years, preparing him for this moment where he can go to the pros. And what Mahesh tells me is this guy's a tenacious defender. He's willing to play ball on both ends of the floor. And he might have some NBA potential. And to learn from a guy like Jalen Adams and under the tutelage of Chase Buford is going to be nothing but good for him. What do you heard about the Redfern boy? He's a local boy from Redfern. What do you heard about him, Robbie?
I haven't heard too much, to be honest, mate. I probably sort of haven't been following the Kings as much. You let me know what you sort of think about him.
Yeah, I mean, my boy's got big raps on him, so I'm just really looking forward to seeing what he can contribute. And he's going to have that opportunity right off the bat, because at that point guard position, Bruce might play a little bit of point guard, but last year, he was moved to the 2 spot a little bit. So Bayless is going to get that opportunity right off the bat, and I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table. And if he's anything like what Mahesh tells me, really exciting prospect. Really exciting.
How's DJ looking like this recovery from his injury there, Woods? Is he looking like he's on track? Or
yeah, it's going to be a while. He's not going to be. Obviously, Swakala Bullock's been brought in because a serious injury like the one he suffered means that he's probably going to. If he's going to play, it's going to be towards the back end of the season. So let's bring him along.
That's a good thing to have, isn't it? Bring him back. I mean, he was really impressive last year, I've got to say. So
microwave, bro, right? I think playing with Casper Wade did him a lot of good last year as well. He would have in his first season as a pro, learning from a guy like Casper Wade would have been good for him, right? And I think he enjoyed playing alongside him.
What about in terms of the Kings sort of fantasy stuff there, Woods? Have you got like a sleeper or a stud or anything you can give us from the Kings?
Yeah, I do. Actually, just before I do that, I wanted to talk quickly about the 2 Maker brothers as well, right? Might as well touch on them. I mean, you got Mature Maker, Thon's brother, and Maker, their cousin, and he's part of that Next Stars program, right? And we've seen how successful the Next Stars program has been in setting people up to make that transition to the NBA. I mean, Didi Lozada's done that recently from the Sydney Kings, and the opportunity for especially Makur Maker, who's going to be in the draft next year, to actually learn from the likes of Luke Longley and Andrew Bogut as part of that Sydney Kings hierarchy is going to be really good for him. And he's the guy that I'd have as my sleeper straight off the bat. This guy's got a lot of talent. He's going to put up good minutes in good numbers in limited minutes. With Jordan Hunter and him there, it's kind of almost like, he might get 20 minutes a game off the bat, and he's going to give you block stats. And we always talk about fantasy and how mumuch it's weighted towards the big man, the points you're going to get for blocks and steals, right, Robbie? So I think a guy like Makur Maker is going to be the sleeper for me. In terms of stud, I was going to go with Jalen Adams, but I just feel that Jarrell Martin this year, I mean, it's great to have a Sydney import coming back for a second year, by the way. It doesn't happen often, right?
Very unusual.
Yep.
Well, I suppose Casper came back for a few, but
yeah,
it's unusual for some of the big guys to come back, isn't it?
Yeah, and that relationship with Chris Pongrass as well with Memphis has allowed him to come back. And I think he's going to stay fit this year. And he's going to be a 2010 guy almost. He's going to be a double machine. And I just think that if he stays healthy, Jarrell Martin is going to be my fantasy stud this year. I mean, get him. He's probably going to have power forward and center eligibility, hopefully. So I think that's the guy that you can move around either position. And I think that he's probably the guy for me that would be the stud. But keep an eye on Jalen Adams. You might get him at cheap straight off the bat. But yeah, I mean.
And Woods, have you got any sort of any Kings stories or anything like that from your sort of time being a fan of the Kings that you'd like to tell the audience?
I do. I was actually going to ask you about a Wildcats story, but
of course,
let me kick it off myself. Yeah. So I guess in 1991, my dad took me to a Kings game, and back then, it was all about, we had banners at the cricket or the basketball. You took banners to the game. I mean, it's died now, Robbie. But back then it was like, you'd get on TV if you showed a banner, and Channel 7, they were the network that actually covered the games back in that time, and for all our older viewers, you would remember there was an ad, yeah, Dad, I'm looking after myself from McCain. McCain, you've done it again, and the greatest player in one of the greatest players in Kings history was Dwayne McClain. So I had a banner put together. My auntie, who was an artist, spent all day working with me on creating this banner. And it was Dwayne McClain, you've done it again. And we used the branding and everything exactly like it was done on the McCain ad. And I put it up, and Channel 7 reporter came, talked to me, asked me about it. And we taped the game on VHS back then. I came back, watched it, and, my banner's up all the time. Every time the D-Train scored a bucket, you'd see me, this little kid, holding up his banner with his Kings hat.
How many dunks do you reckon the D-Train would have had that game, Woods?
Man, it's going back 30 years, so it's hard for me to remember, but he would definitely had some, knowing
probably
him, right?
5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, for sure. Tim Morrison throwing him the ball and him just going upstairs and getting it, man. That's probably what happened. But it was a great fond memory for me because I got on TV and actually being able to, and it was my idea as a young kid to mix up that McCain ad with Dwayne McClain and make a banner out of it. So for me, that was huge, and it's a fond memory in time. It's showing our age, man, how long we've been watching the game for and following it. So 30 years ago now at the Sydney Entertainment Centre. So I know you got a great Perth story, man, from when you were growing up. So
I've got one. Look, I don't know if it's as good as yours, but yeah, look, I guess from my little sort of Wildcat story, it was back in 1990. Wildcats player Tiny Pinder had just basically opened a sports apparel type shop in the city in Perth. So look, I was all sort of excited to see if I could go there and get an autograph and maybe get a photo or something like that. So yeah, anyway, my dad sort of took me along to this little sports shop in just an arcade in Perth. And so I got to meet Tiny, which was a huge thrill for me sort of back then as a 10 or 11-year-old boy. Unfortunately, it sort of didn't quite work as well as we thought. I thought I'd sort of just be able to go and get an autograph and get a photo and sort of be it like that. But they had an interesting policy there that basically you couldn't take your own camera and take a photo. And then if you did want a photo with Tiny, the shop would take it and they would charge the prize sum of $20 for doing so. So given this was 30 years ago, $20 for a photo was a little bit pricey, I guess. But yeah, what could I do? Dad knew I wanted the photo. I kept on pestering him. So I've still got that photo after all these years.
Yeah, show us, Robbie.
Okay, there's me and Tiny back in the day there in 1990. So yeah, that's kind of that old school sort of photo I've got there. So hopefully that's coming through all right for the people that are watching the video. But yeah.
And knowing your dad, he wouldn't have been happy to give up that $20, man.
Oh, no, he wasn't pleased about that. No. Like I said, he brought his own camera. He thought he'd just go there and take a photo and like that. He didn't realize he'd be paying for a photo. But yeah, I'm glad he did. So thanks for that, Dad.
Yeah, just on that note, actually, while you're talking about the Pinders, I've got a pretty good relationship with Keanu Pinder, and I've been speaking to him over the last few months, telling him about this project that we've been doing. And he tries to stay away from the limelight. He doesn't like too many interviews or whatever. But I've been bugging him. been bugging his ass to come on this podcast, and I'm working on him, Robbie. So hopefully we can have him on a guest this season.
Mate, I think we'll both be really excited to see how he goes with Cairns last year. This year, I mean, we both really sort of enjoyed following and watching his games last year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him in the.
Yeah, he just built and got better and better, didn't he, as the season went on? And he might be a basketball player, but he's an even better person off the court. So having him on this show would be amazing. Thanks for that story, Robbie. I guess let's just move on now to our Australians in the NBA section, right? And I think for our focus today, we really wanted to talk about Dante Exum, right? So I'm going to throw out a few topics to you, Robbie, and then you can hit me back with what you think, and we can go from there, right? Sure. So Exum's got picked up by the Rockets. He's coming back. It's a 3-year non-guaranteed contract, and it could be worth up to $15 million, with roughly half the deal in incentives, depending on if he stays fit, if he achieves certain KPIs, etc. What do you think about that?
I think it's a pretty good sort of opportunity for him. I mean, look, obviously his stock did seem to rise a little bit after his showing in Japan in the Olympics.
Yep, definitely.
And yeah, look, I think it is a good opportunity to go to. Look, there's probably a little bit of uncertainty in Houston at the moment. They are in rebuild mode. I think there's no sort of hiding that there. But look, I think it'll be good. I mean, they've got a lot of younger sort of guards on that team now as well. So he could come in at age 26 and sort of be that veteran and help, develop the likes of Jalen and develop the likes of Kevin Porter and those sort of guys. So I think it's definitely a good opportunity for him. And look, I wouldn't like to say it's a last opportunity, but I think the clock's ticking a little bit on Dante there now. He was a lottery pick. He's sort of been to a few teams now and had a few injuries. So I think this is a big year and a big opportunity for him.
Yeah, you make a few very good points there. He's a veteran now. The last 7 years have just gone, right? And he's a 7-year pro, although he's been, injured a lot of the time. He knows the NBA lifestyle. He's been around the blocks for a while now. He's got that international experience. So he's coming in as that veteran. But I'm going to tell you, this is his last opportunity. If he can stay healthy and stay fit, right? And really, make a contribution over these next 3 years, it could be difficult for him to stay in the league, and he might have to look at Europe or coming back to Southeast Melbourne, which he's talked about, right? So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, look, definitely a big opportunity for him. I think we'll all be sort of hoping he has an injury-free season. We can just sort of see him back out on the court and doing what he does, because he's great to watch. I mean, with the energy and the sort of excitement he plays with, there's not a lot of players out there like him, and he's obviously still got a lot of athleticism there. So yeah, fingers crossed he can sort of have a great year.
Hey, dog, we talk about it all the time, man. When we watch him play with reckless abandon, and drive to the hoop and just not care about, his body. And what does it make you feel like when you see him? In the Olympics, we saw that a few times when we were texting back and forth.
It worries you every time. I mean, you see someone like Westbrook play like that, and Westbrook just gets up every time. But yeah, with Dante, he sort of goes down, and you're like, oh no, is he getting up from this injury? So
right,
yeah, it's definitely a tough one to watch him sometimes. But I definitely enjoy it.
Definitely. And tell me about that Olympic performance. How much did that play a role in him getting this opportunity? The Rockets, do you think?
Yeah, look, I certainly think it did. I think it probably gave him a lot of confidence as well. He didn't have a lot of opportunities in his last few stints. Obviously he was on the big stage in Japan there, and he delivered. He sort of showed that he could come off the bench and be a real spark. He's a very sort of good on the ball defender. He's quite a reliable shooter these days. He can definitely hit that corner three, which I think would probably fit in well with Houston, with the way they sort of like to play that sort of style of ball. But I think it did sort of give him a big opportunity there, and obviously sort of going over there and getting that bronze medal and showing what he was made of, I think it definitely opened a few doors for him.
Yeah, I mean, he came in, you touched on it well. He came in this league as a point guard who could, really run the offense. But now he's actually developed into a tenacious defender. He's got that three ball. He's still got that brilliant first step, and he can get to the rack with ease. He's got to be able to finish a bit better. It seems like he gets to the rack quite easily and misses some gimmies. So hopefully he can work on that and really take his game to the next level. Fingers crossed for him, he stays healthy. One final thing, man. We listened to the Rockets talk about how they're going to sit John Wall. They ain't going to be playing him on this rebuilding team. Is that really going to benefit Dante? Is he going to really get an opportunity? Maybe even start now, right?
It definitely gives him an opportunity. I mean, look, in a way, I see a little bit of the way Exum plays in the way that sort of Wall has played in the past.
You said it, man.
Obviously Exum's quite a bit bigger. That's probably the one difference there. But yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. I mean, look, I think it would have been good if John Wall was there too, to learn from someone with that pedigree. But look, it looks like he's definitely not going to be there. That's the road they decided to go down. So yeah, look, I don't know about starting. I think you might be being a bit of a homer there, Woods, but we'll see how he goes. If he has a good
Yeah.
if he has a good training camp, you never know. But I'll be expecting him to start Jalen and Kevin Porter in the backcourt at this stage. But like, if to bring him as a spark off the bench would be a real good thing for him.
Yeah. I know. I'm being a bit biased here and hoping that happens because, obviously I'm a big fan of his, as you know. And we wish him nothing but success and luck because the guy's had such a bad run of luck, Robbie. And we just want him to do well, right?
Absolutely.
All right. And just let us know what you think, man. Hit us up. We'll give you our details later and let us know what you think about Dante Exum and his prospects for the new season. You got your league pass sorted, man, by the way?
Yep, all sorted. Ready to go.
All sorted, ready to go. Nice. All right, so give me some Hawks talk, bro. Give me some Hawks talk.
Yeah, definitely. So, look, I think as Woody sort of said at the start, we wanted to sort of just complete a little bit of a segment on the Hawks, sort of each episode. So I guess we were sort of looking at now, knowing that the training camp is just it's just starting now, isn't it? So just looking at their depth and everything else like that. So I guess there was two players we wanted to sort of, discuss in this first little edition of Hawks Talks. So that would be Jahlil Okafor and TLC. I know you pronounce his name better than me there, Woods, but
Timothy Lawawu Cabarro. Let me say that, right?
Yeah. I like it. So look, I mean, those veterans have joined the training camp, so they've got guaranteed contracts even at the moment. So I guess we're just going to try and talk sort of their cases and what chances they are of making the team. I know when we sort of discussed it earlier, Woods, it's pretty interesting that both players were also in Japan competing in the Olympics.
Absolutely.
Okafor for Nigeria and TLC for France. And that's probably, given them those opportunities. Look, for me, probably Okafor is a funny one. He was a really high draft pick. He has bounced around a little bit now. Obviously, there has been some issues, with his defense and everything like that. But the guy can flat out score. He's huge as well. He's a legit 6'11", 260, 270 pounds. So, I think he's still got something to offer there. So I think it's probably how do you see the Hawks going, Woods? What do you think in terms of their depth chart is most needed?
I mean, the thing is, first let's mention they're very good friends, right? These two, and they played together in Philadelphia. They're both former first-round picks of Philadelphia. So it's tough that one of them is going to end up on this roster being very close. But I think you talk about that, that three spot, that small forward position for the Atlanta Hawks. And as good as TLC is, probably a better overall player in what he can offer. But you got DeAndre Hunter, you got Solomon Hill, you got Cam Reddish, and even Red Velvet could step up and play a bit of that three spot, right? There's a little bit of a less of a need for a guy like TLC on this lineup, right? And we were talking earlier, Onyeka Okongwu is I love him, by the way, but he's going to be out for a while, right? And so we got old man Georgie Deng, and we got obviously Clint Capella starting, and you were saying that Jahlil Okafor probably fits into that three-man center rotation a bit better, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you compare, you've got Capella, who's, predominantly a defender who can also sort of finish around the rim. He's known more for his defense. Jen can sort of score, but I'm not sure how much you're going to get from him at this stage. But look, in someone like Okafor, I think he could be a good sort of bench player to come on and just sort of give you a little bit of instant offense. Don't sort of be too concerned about his defense. Sort of come on and try and contribute that way, I guess. So, look, certainly a big opportunity for the two of them. I think they're both the same age. They were drafted a year apart, but they're both a year apart. So, look, it's probably a big opportunity for both of those. Look, I'd probably be happy to have them both on the team, to be honest, Woods. But as we know, with the Atlanta Hawks, they may not have the best roster in the NBA, but man, they have one of the deepest rosters. I mean, they legit go 12 deep. They've got sort of backups at every position. Two really good draft picks that came in this year. So. Yeah, look, whoever sort of does end up making it, if one of them does, it's going to be interesting to follow that during the training camp.
I kind of got a thing for Okafor, ex-Duke guy, and when we talk about throwback hoops, he's a throwback to the current center in the NBA, man. Give me the ball in the post. Let me put my back to the basket and let me try and get a bucket for you, right? That's how we used to know the game, right? And so I'm kind of a bit biased towards Jahlil Okafor, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a renaissance for that back to the basket play and the big man over the next 10 years, where it's not just going to be threes and layups. You're going to have a big dog that you can throw the ball to in the post and get it done.
Well,
and
you think about someone like him. That would basically stop any team that was playing a small ball five. If you tried to play a small on him, he's just going to flat out bully him and just score on him in every play. So I think he can shift the other, the opposing team sort of defenses there. If he comes on, you need to have someone that is big enough to sort of to guard him there down low.
Yeah, and I looked at a statistic the other day. The defensive, even though he's always been criticized for, that he can't guard a barstool, Jahlil Okafor, if you look at his defensive rating compared to TLC's, there's not that much of a discrepancy there, right? So if he can give us that and service the need for us, even if it's just like 6 or 7 minutes a game when you need a bucket, Clint Capella's in foul trouble or whatever, he's going to be able to contribute to us right away. And I think he's a veteran now as well. Like we talked about Dante Exum, right? Jahlil Okafor was a 6-year pro now, 7-year pro, right?
Yep.
He's been to the Olympics. He comes with a high pedigree, and he can also help some of the younger guys in the locker room. So not just what he offers on the court, he's going to be able to offer something off the court, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Really excited, man. I think a couple of days till the Hawks' first game, so pumped, right?
Bring it on.
So thanks for the first episode, Robbie. It's been a pleasure doing this with you, by the way, man. But I just got to make a few shout outs here. While I was researching, how we're going to prepare for this, how we're going to do this episode, Joseph Kaur, JC, my man from the NBL Pocket Podcast, I reached out to him and I developed a friendship with him, and he mentored me, gave me advice, taught me about what it would take to be successful in doing something like this. And even on the last NBL Pocket Podcast, you heard Robbie, he gave a shout out to Throwback Hoops, right?
We really appreciated it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
And so, it's very, very nice of him. So JC, thanks, bro. Really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in for everyone, and please subscribe to the show if you like, or on whatever channel, whether it's YouTube or any of the podcast channels that you download your podcast on, as I mentioned earlier. Please subscribe to us and support. Robbie, where can the audience find us, man? Why don't you tell
Absolutely,
them about
mate.
that,
So look, I'll give you our Twitter handle. So it's Throwbacks Hoops. We did have to put that extra S in there, unfortunately, but Throwbacks Hoops is where you'll find us on Twitter. You'll see our logo, Hawk symbol with a couple of microphones there. So yeah, so to follow us along there. And where else can we find us, Woods?
So if people want to email us any questions or any thoughts on anything, our email is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. At the end of this, you'll see a visual on the screen or whatever with all this information anyway. So please do contact us if you have any questions or you want us to focus on a specific topic or whatever. Just holler at us and we'll get back to you. And that would be great. I've also got a TikTok channel, Woody_V83. So for your younger generation, I thought I'd, appease you guys as well. And I show off a lot of our jerseys and talk a little bit about basketball on that. So if you've got TikTok, please follow us there. Hey, Robbie, man, how'd you think you went, bro? By the way, you did all right. You think you're like J.E. Skeets, right? From the Basketball Jones, don't you, man? You look like him. You look like him, bro.
Skeets. Well, I've got that sort of, that similar build to Jay Skeets. And you've obviously got that Amin El Hassan sort of vibe about you as well, mate. So maybe we can sort of just be those
Amin El Hassan. Yo, man, that's my guy, man. I love that guy, right? Yo. Yeah, man, you went all right. Probably went as well as your Wildcats are going to do this season and then as well as your fantasy team's going to do this season, dog.
Mate, it probably means another championship on the way. Hey, maybe Jahlil Okafor gets cut by Atlanta and the Wildcats sign him as our center.
Right. That would be full circle. That would be full circle. Hey, man, it's been good chopping up with you, homie, by the way.
Been a pleasure, Woods. Look forward to doing it again next week,
For
mate.
sure, dog. Yeah.